Carla Wright with the Shared Hospice of Jefferson and Clallam County. I'm the senior account executive, so my role is out in the field, coordinating those admissions, educating the community. So we'll go next, and how about Mary?
Good morning, my name is Mary Copeland. I am the owner and founder of Compass and Clock, which is a multimedia program that's designed to help folks 40 and better navigate their own road ahead so that we can all have a better quality of life and work together as a family and as a community. Everything we do is free. From Gig Harbor to Port Angeles is the original parameters that I set for Compass and Clock, but I seem to be going a little further than that these days because I use a lot of online programs. So tomorrow, for those of you that might have a lunch hour and want to join us, we have Compass Points rolling out, and that will be once a month on the third Thursday from 11:30 to 12:30, and it'll be a directional panel discussion series. So tomorrow we'll be talking about financial health and how to prepare for your 2020 tax return. So I have a CPA, a financial advisor, and an estate planning attorney. So that would be great if you want to join us. We do the magazines online. We are rolling out podcasts in February. We do a lot online. So we have a bigger reach. So when you have folks that you're working with that live here, but loved ones live further away, no problem. They can access the same information just from their computer at home. So thank you all for joining us today. And let's go to Beth next.
Well, hi, everybody. Good morning. I'm Beth Pratt. I am the Community Relations Director at Parkview Villas here on the west side of Port Angeles, serving seniors for going on our 31st year right now. So we're excited. Our vaccine clinics are underway and looking forward to a brighter 2021.
Terry, good morning.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Terry Wensitz. I work with Catholic Community Services Volunteer Service Program. And what we do are seniors and adults with special disabilities. We have volunteers who will take them to essential medical appointments or dental appointments. We can do buddy calling if someone is alone and just needs to have someone give them a check-in once a week or something. We are able to install grab bars. If we have able-bodied people, we like to build wheelchair ramps, but we don't have any right now. And there's quite a number of other things that we do. We can run errands, we can pick up prescriptions, we can go pick up and deliver groceries, we deliver Meals on Wheels. There's anything you can think of probably within safety, because we're not allowed to put a client in the car just to go shopping at this time with COVID. So there you have it. And you can reach me at 360-417-5640. Thanks.
Gary, you can also put that phone number in the chat. That way people can get it. I know I'm kind of slow with phone numbers, but I'm going to put it in the chat. So how about Victoria?
Yeah, I don't see it. There we go.
And then Terry.
Hi, I'm Victoria. Oh.
Go ahead, sorry.
Get it, Terry? I'm Victoria, and I am over in Swim at Sinclair Place. I'm Community Relations Manager. Started here in September. Excited to continue to grow our community where residents can live and have the medical support that they need.
Thank you, Victoria. Priya? Did I say that right?
Priya.
Hi, it's Priya. Hi, I'm Priya Jadeb. I'm the Executive Director for Cloud Mosaic. We're an organization with a mission to empower individuals with special needs. And as such, during the pandemic, most of our activities have gone from face-to-face day programs to actually virtual day programs. And we offer programming that crosses a range of abilities as well as a range of ages, and we have a number of people who are in the senior category that we serve. We also are the support. We are the host for the Parent to Parent chapter, which supports families and caregivers caring for someone with special needs. So in that category, we have a number of people who are aging and are worried about how to take care of their loved ones with disabilities going into the future. So that's part of why I've joined this conversation. And then we also provide one-on-one services to individuals to get them into inclusive community activities, people with special needs. I asked Catherine to join me also. So if you don't mind, I'm going to pass the baton to Catherine to introduce herself after me. Okay.
Yes, I'm Catherine McKinney. I'm the Program and Communications Director for Clallam Mosaic. And I'd just like to add to what Priya said, we also, to support our participants, we send home care and activity bags each month. And in fact, they're going out today. And we started, last April with only 46, and we're up to 80 right now. And so we're also, our Zoom reach has gone beyond the county. And as she mentioned, we are serving a vast age group, from 14 to 74. So it's pretty interesting.
Thank you. Thank you. Minton, I'm not sure your first name.
Mary.
Oh, Mary, you're on mute. Mary, you're on mute. I still can't hear you.
You're not on mute anymore, but you might need to turn up the volume on your computer, on your keyboard. Why don't we go to Barbara Lewis while Mary figures it out?
Okay, Barbara.
Hey.
Hi.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Sorry, we're doing introductions?
Yes.
Sorry, got
yes.
it.
You
Okay,
need
well,
to turn on your video.
yeah, it's been a little busy today, so a little technical difficulties, but yeah, I'm Barb. I'm the administrator at San Juan Villa Memory Care in Port Townsend.
Do you want to elaborate on that, Barbara, a little?
Sorry?
Why don't you elaborate on that a little bit? Tell everybody a little bit more about San Juan Villa's Memory Care in Port Townsend.
Oh, we are a small 32-bed memory care community.
The last we heard is you're a small 32-bed memory care community. They're also the only memory care community in all of Jefferson County.
Wow.
And, Barbara, if I remember correctly, Barbara, were you the head of nursing? And,
Yeah.
And now
Sorry, my phone must have gone out again. Yes, I was the resident care coordinator here for a couple years. I've worked here for 6 years, specialized in dementia. I am also the chair of the North Olympic Peninsula Walk Committee for the Alzheimer's Association. So we do offer.
Barbara, can I ask you, do you have anyone with special needs in your facility, or does your facility even have the capability to handle someone with special needs? Because people with special needs often have early onset dementia. So I was just curious if you have that capability.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. We actually don't right now. However, if the primary need for someone with special needs was memory care related or dementia care related, then we would be able to admit them. But if it was solely for special needs, then we couldn't.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Barbara, was that your introduction, or we can move on?
Yeah, that's
okay.
If you have any questions, yeah.
Thank you. Mary, we lost Mary, so maybe we'll catch up on her when she comes back. So if everybody could put their mics on mute, I'll introduce Pat, and we can let her get started on her presentation. get her.
Before you introduce Pat, while everybody has their mics on mute while Pat is speaking, we do encourage questions. So if you have a question, unmute yourself, ask your question, or put it in the chat bar, and Charlotte or I can ask it. And I am recording this so that others can hear this when it's convenient for them because they weren't able to join us today. Thank you.
Okay. Pat Justis, she's the Executive Director at the Rural Health Office of Community Health Systems for the Washington State Department of Health. And she is going to be speaking about our Palliative Care Roadmap that just came out. And she is the guru of it all. So I'm going to let Pat elaborate on that. And Pat, do you mind if I put your contact information in the chat box?
That'd be fine. They're also on the slides, which I'll make available to you when we're done here.
Okay.
I'm going to share screen and then get that going, and then we can talk. I had it all set up, and now is it gonna? And I have a disclaimer. I have 2 young dogs. I walk them. I gave them Kongs. I think they're going to be quiet, but that's life, sort of. And let me get this into slides. So you should be seeing slides now. Is that working? Somebody let me know if they're everything's copacetic. Okay. So what I want to do, and this is informal, I just have a few slides, but I want to talk to you about palliative care and make sure everybody has the same understanding of what it means, because there's a lot of myths and misconceptions about it. I'll talk about the roadmap and how it came about, how it was funded, talk a little bit about the process we used to create it, and what our design objectives were, and then the challenges that we faced. And then we'll jump into the roadmap if I can make the technology work as I did in my test, and we'll look at it a little bit. And then by the end, I want to assure that you all know how to obtain either of your choice, the electronic PDF or how to order printed booklets. So here is my my big test, is see if I can, through VPN and Zoom, make this short little video play. Let's see what happens. It's thinking.
There's no volume on the video.
You're not hearing it? Pardon? Did I understand that you can't hear the video?
That is correct.
Correct, we can't hear it.
Okay, thank you for letting me know that. I tell you what, rather than watching me labor, it's pretty funny. I'll send you a link when we're done. I wasn't sure how this would work out. So let me get it out of here. Where is just close it up when you want it? Now I'm feeling kamboobly.
Go to the bottom where the man in the navy shirt, there you go.
What? Where? I'm feeling really lost. I'm sorry. Go to the bottom of the man in the navy shirt.
Well, you did that to make it smaller. Now go to the top right of the screen.
All right. Yeah. All right. Now we're going. That was stage fright. That's what that was. This is a, I'll just tell you this video, I'll send you a link. It's about 1.5 minutes. It was made by a team in the Okanagan, and it is hilarious and defines palliative care at the same time. So why am I associated with this project at all? I have a rural palliative care project, and on my advisory team is Leslie Emmerich, who is kind of a shaker and mover on all kinds of things. She is the policy director for a couple organizations, the Home Care Association of Washington, as well as Washington State Hospice and Palliative Care Organization. So I'll tell you more about how that all came about, but she linked me to this project, and then I led a lot of stakeholder input. But I do want to offer you the rural palliative care definition and just sit with it for just a minute, because people think hospice and they think end of life and death, and some of you may not think that, but I want to make sure that you leave with a better understanding. So it's all hospice is palliative care, but not all palliative care is hospice. So palliative care is care of a serious illness, and it can be at any stage in that illness, so not just end of life. So we think of it as specialized care for people living with serious illness. The care is focused on relief from the symptoms and the stress of the illness and treatment, whatever the diagnosis. And then the goal is to improve and sustain quality of life, not only for the patient, but for the people who love them and other care companions that might be in their life. And it can be, this is a big difference from hospice, and particularly the Medicare benefit. It can happen concurrent with curative treatment. So a person can be still having a surgery or chemotherapy or whatever it is that they think may be helpful, and receive the support of palliative care. It facilitates patient autonomy, access to information and choice. And then the team, and it's an interdisciplinary team, helps patients and families understand both the nature of their illness and then make timely, informed decisions about care. So just in hearing you talk about the jobs that you do, it's aligned with, I think, the mission of what many of you do for your day jobs. So that was our intent, is to help the people that are living with serious illness and the people that love them understand the value of palliative care, and also understand kind of what's happening with them at the time. So this is a diagram from the University of British Columbia, and some of you may have seen palliative care diagrams before if you hang out with the, the geeky people I do. But the one thing about this bow tie that we really love is that not everybody dies. So you could have, I think one of the best examples our physician medical director gave us was he had a patient with head and neck cancer. Surgically, the cancer was removed, but the patient was left with a lot of difficult symptoms to live with. And so he went to, the upper end of this diagram, into rehab and survivorship. This is a structure that we carried into the roadmap. And I'll tell you that actually we ended up emphasizing end-of-life care less, because it's already pretty well known comparatively. There's a lot out there on end-of-life care compared to living with serious illness. So in our initiative, I just want to let you know what we're up to briefly. We're trying to help people stay in their communities. We think that when you're living with a serious illness, it's the worst time to have to travel to a city for curative treatments that may not improve your quality of life. So we're trying to help these rural communities both develop skills, but also be connected to telehealth and telemedicine resources, so they can help people to stay with the people they love and the places they love at a difficult time in their life. We're trying to move upstream. We think there's certain conditions where at the time of diagnosis, introducing palliative care as a choice is really appropriate. And finally, the age-old thing of funding models for sustainable services, which it takes sort of multiple strategies for this. It's still coming into its own. So just a few myths about palliative care. I kind of covered the one that it's for people who are dying. Some people think palliative care is comfort care. And actually, although symptom control is part of it, it's also, as I mentioned, alongside curative treatment. And it's not only offered in hospitals. A lot of the growth originally with palliative care was in inpatient consultation services and in big hospitals. The growth has been really large in hospitals that have 50 beds or more, which leaves out, Jefferson, Port Angeles, and Forks, right? I forgot to share that my brother's first job for Department of Natural Resources was in Forks, and he lived on the Quileute Prairie, I think, which is the rain station record for the state, perhaps. And then he moved out to the Hoko Spit, and I have another brother who lives on Marrowstone, so I have kind of big Olympic Peninsula roots and love it up there. In fact, I just got back from Fort Worden this weekend. So moving on. So this is how it came to be. I mentioned Leslie Emmerich. We looked at, everybody was talking about the Dementia Care Roadmap. Like, it was a breakthrough, I think, in terms of being a educational tool that was appealing and useful, that didn't try to do too much, that was beautiful to look at, that covered the information in a voice that really worked. So Leslie kept talking about a palliative care roadmap. She wanted a palliative care roadmap. She got the board of her association, Washington State Hospice and Palliative Care, to get behind that. And then she had conversations with Representative Theringer and Senator Bailey. And she was able to get what's called a budget proviso, which means it's not a separate bill, but it's a line item in the budget. And it was, you know, it was a pittance. It was about $28,000. And we used it to hire on contract a coordinator that I could oversee, and then for printing costs, the original printing costs. We've already run through those, and we're into other pots of money to keep printing it, and we'll continue to do that. And really, her connection to our Rural Palliative Care Initiative is why she brought it to me in particular at the Department of Health, because we've become great allies over that work. So here's our process. We did a day-long meeting, and we worked really hard to identify all kinds of people that are involved with serious illness care, hospice and palliative care, older adults, health care for kids, all kinds of folks. We brought them into a room, and we used the headers from the Dementia Roadmap for the most part on big, this is back when we got to meet together in rooms. We had flip charts with those headers. We did what's called a mall walk, where people then brainstormed with stickies and kept going around the room to fill out basically lots of content for us. In fact, probably we could have done a series of 5 roadmaps with all the content that we had. We needed then to keep, and we made a pledge really, that we weren't going to try to cover too much. And so we knew our biggest job was to prioritize and trim content. We worked hard to get different viewpoints. We had all of the people that contributed were kind of our large review group, and then there were others on top of that, people they knew. And then we had a smaller editorial group of, you know, real palliative care expertise who went through it with a very fine editorial eye. Finally, then we worked with what's called the Center for Public Affairs at the Department of Health, where I got the luck to be assigned a graphic artist who cared deeply about the topic and really put her heart and soul, I think, into the graphic design of the roadmap. So kind of our challenges and decisions along the way. One thing is we realized that the Dementia Care Roadmap followed a fairly stepwise progression in terms of phases, and that serious illness doesn't. I mean, there are some phases that you can identify, but there are dynamics that go across all the phases. And so we had lots of conversations about that, and you'll have to tell us how we did. We tried to do both. So you'll see, you know, worried well, and then all the way through to survivorship. But we also have a section on hope and on the pulsed form and other things that aren't just in one phase of this. We really wanted to make sure our language is accessible, so we tried to, at DOH it's called plain talk, which is don't talk like you're from government. But the other thing is that we had lots of people look at that, and then any language that we wanted to use that we felt needed help, we did put it in a glossary. We also collected a lot of resources, as did the Dementia Care Roadmap, and then we had to trim that back to the most important. Other conversation we got into was this a serious illness roadmap or a palliative care roadmap? And when you think about that, those are two different things. Are we talking about the care or the experience of the illness? And I can't tell you that we did it perfectly. We tried to balance those things. We ended up making sure that we called it the Palliative Care Roadmap because we do have a mission for that term to be more understandable. I think all of us share in the work that we want patients and families to know what it is so that they can ask for it if it isn't offered. So we took that on and we tried to kind of cross both those topics. And I talked about this. We had so much content. You would not believe how many times Cassie, the person I had on contract with me, and I went through and took out stuff we really loved. It was painful, but necessary. And I think I talked about this. We really put the focus on living with illness rather than dying and hospice. We do have a section on that, but it was a matter of proportion. And then it was interesting, the Dementia Care Roadmap assumed family is the primary audience. You know, they're assuming that for the most part, except in early stages, people with dementia are probably not going to sit down with the tool and read it. I have a family member, a very close family member right now who is in the final stages of a vascular dementia. And I know she probably would have picked it up in the early phases. Pardon the dog. But we had to really rethink that and realize that with serious illness, that we needed to really speak not only to the family, but also to the patient or the person with the illness. So here's the ordering information, and I'll make sure that I send this slide deck so that you have the live links. We have it in storage, essentially, with the Department of Enterprise Services, and both of these sites have the link to that and how to order it. And then both of those sites also have the PDF, so you can get the electronic copy for those you want. We know from the Dementia Care Roadmap's experience that a lot of people would prefer to have the hard copy for this because they want to hand it to people. Really different experience for people than handing them a link to actually hand them the booklet. So let me, I'm going to stop sharing that and kind of clean up my screen. I can take some questions and then I'll put up the roadmap for those of you who haven't seen it.
Hey, Pat, can you put the link to order magazines in the chat box? I tried to copy it. I don't know if anybody else was successful at trying to like highlight and copy.
She said she would do that too, and I think you'll get more questions once you put up the roadmap.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll leave it up here for a bit before I transfer to the roadmap while we do some questions, and then you'll get the slide link if you don't want to copy it.
Well, while you're getting your slide going, Richard Pisano and Amy joined us. So Amy, why don't you say hello, tell everybody who you are. And Mary, did you get your audio to work? Okay. You can tell us in the chat who you're with, Mary, and put your contact information there for everyone. So Amy, real quick.
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, good afternoon. Sorry I joined late. I appreciate everyone being here and this is wonderful information. Happy Wednesday. I'm the administrator for Rights Home Care here in Sequim. We serve Port Townsend to Forks. And we love what we do. Thanks for having me.
So glad you joined us. And Richard Tizano, you're on. Can you tell everybody who you are and what you do, please?
Sure. Hi all, Richard Tizano. I'm an estate planning attorney in office in Paulsbo, and I limit my practice to the area of elder law and some guardianships, things in that matter. This is a great program to date up to this point, and I'm glad you're recording it. I have a noon appointment that's just come in, so I'm gonna get off the line, but I'll look forward to listening to it later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard. Pat, it's all you.
Okay. So how many of you have, well, I guess I can't see your arms. Some of you have probably seen it, some of you have not. I'm going to go with that as an assumption. And so these are the contents. And we put hope right up front. This was a bias of mine. And I'll just disclose, I live with a serious illness, and I had to really think about what hope means in the context of living with an illness. And so we try to be really thoughtful about that, and also thoughtful about the fact that no matter where you are in your illness trajectory, you have things that you can hope for. So that's right up front. We were really torn about the content around culture, ethnicity, spiritual practices. We couldn't do kind of tokenism, right? We couldn't try to cover every culture and what illness means and how to behave. And it wasn't for providers anyway, right? And so we'd slip into these discussions where we'd realize we were trying to think about how to help healthcare teams, or, you know, people who are supporting people living with illness in another way. And it really was more focal around the patient and the people they love. So we took kind of an approach of narrating about that there are differences that we need to be aware of. We put some help about how to take care of your healthcare conversations. And then we started into kind of the phase work. The reason we did when healthy at any age is because we wanted to make a strong pitch for advanced care planning and for those conversations. Legal tips and resources, and then other phase kind of stuff, worried about symptoms, but you don't have a diagnosis yet. Diagnosis early in the journey. We think loss and grief, we had lots of discussions about that, is another topic that is all along the path. So it steps back out of the phase. And then when things worsen, recovery and survivorship and end of life. And then we have some resources, pulse, key terms there. So it's a roadmap, so we had to have a road. And you probably noticed, I'm sorry, the dog is now singing. The Dementia Care Roadmap focuses around you may be wondering questions in each section. And we borrowed that. And so the questions from each of the phases came into this map. So just for an example, for diagnosis, what does my diagnosis mean and what can I expect? What decisions do I need to make? Where can I get more information and support? What do I tell other people? How should I tell them? Now, we didn't answer every question that we posed, and I thought about that a lot. But I definitely, from other work I've done, think that people sometimes have questions percolating in their heart and in their gut, but they don't know how to put them into a question form. So I do think it is helpful to help people formulate questions that they can choose where they want to ask those. So here's our welcome. I'm not going to read this all to you. I'm just going to kind of keep blipping through. There's that bow tie model and our definition of palliative care. And here's our page about hope. I'm proud of this page. I think it's a good piece of work. And then with examples of hope, these are a 2-page spreads. You're seeing them as single pages, but it does lay out as 2-page spreads, of course. So you can let us know how we did with the cultural and spiritual practices section. We did our best to try to be, there's much discussion, let's put it that way, about how to manage that piece respectfully. So this was to help people with their healthcare conversations and making the most of appointments. And let me back up. So where can you receive palliative care services and who is on a palliative care team? We wanted to build some basic information about what the care is so that people were better informed and knew how to ask about that, as I mentioned. We borrowed a diagram, and it's cited there from the National Institutes of Health, and adapted it just a little bit about advanced care planning because it was so thorough and it was graphic and nicely done. The twin page that goes with it shows in Washington our fairly new cascade for a healthcare agent in terms of a proxy for healthcare decision making. So we put that content, and there was a diagram of that, and so we modified that a little bit. Honoring Choices Pacific Northwest gets credit for that diagram, and we used it with their permission. So it begins with you know, you're healthy. Why do I need to be thinking about this? And what would I want if I became seriously ill or injured? And what's the difference between a living will and advance directive? We know there's a lot of kind of terms out there that people swirl in the terms. So we had a wonderful attorney who happens to be a friend of mine for many years, but she was one of the leaders of the dementia advanced directive work. And Lisa Brodoff, she's a professor of law at Seattle University and specializes in disability and elder law. So she gave us great assistance with our legal tips and resources. So then we start into another section of having some symptoms and being worried, but being in that place of not knowing yet. Another dilemma for us was how to help people be better at not reading junk on the web and running with it. So we decided we'd take an approach of teaching people how to fish in terms of how do you identify reliable information when on the internet, and that's one of our insets. And we go through diagnosis, early in the journey, and then loss and grief. As I said, we take, you know, it comes in many ways. It's not just about someone dying. There's so many different kinds of loss associated with illness. And then when things worsen, recovery and survivorship, as I've talked about. And then we do talk about end of life, dying, and death. And then we had a person on our stakeholder group that has been deep into PULST for a long time. So she did a lot of helping with this particular section. And then we go into the key terms. And there's quite a bit there that I think can be helpful. We tried to take the perspective of someone who does not at all know the system. I apologize for my puppy. I'm going to have to let him out in a minute. All right. So, and then resources. And we waded through a lot of resources, as I said, to really try to do the ones that were most critical. I'm going to stop sharing and I am going to mute while I deal with this puppy for a second. And then I'm definitely open for conversation.
There's a conversation on the chat bar and people are asking how to order the roadmap. So Pat is going to be sharing that link with us so that we can do that. And I will be sending the link in the follow-up email that will go out by tomorrow once the video from today is all done. You're on mute, Pat.
Indeed I am. Everybody has to do it at least once a day. So now I've done mine for the day. I'll be free for the rest of it. Questions or comments?
So I have a question. You're going to share a link with us so people can order the roadmap, and you had stated in the presentation that it's at no cost. So is there a shipping charge involved with it though?
No, we're paying shipping and handling as well.
Okay, and is there a limit to how many people can order? Because when you have providers on here that can hand out quite a few for you based on who they see on a daily or monthly basis, are there limits?
No, we're really dedicated to trying to meet the need and see how many people will need and then keep printing. So no, don't be shy. Order what you really think you'll need. We have it set with the supplier where at a certain threshold they check in with us to make sure, you know, it's somebody that's kind of reasonable. We wouldn't say no to any of you. It would only be if it was probably like a vendor that was going to resell it or something we'd say no to. But we've had a really fun development, which is Colorado and some folks involved with hospice and palliative care have asked to use our roadmap, and they're going to basically take out a little bit of the Washington-ness of it and insert Colorado and use most of our content. So this is in the public domain. You know, it was funded with public dollars. So it's our goal to have it in people's hands at no cost. And if there was another state that approached us in that vein, we would say yes to that too.
You may have already mentioned this. I'm sorry, I was doing admissions on the side there, but who's continuing to fund the reprints? Because I mean, $28,000 only goes so far, and I'm sure you went through that.
Yeah, we're done with that. So what we're doing bake sales. No, we've got several different grants in my area. We're using little smidges of this and that. I have told Washington State Hospice and Palliative Care Organization, we'll get to the point where we need to identify ways to raise more funds. This is not the legislative session, as you might guess, to ask to fund anything.
Right.
So we think we've got the next printing lined up in terms of some funding that we control. And I'm just going to keep kind of plumbing what I've got before we have to push outward. But I think we have a lot of choices of places that might pitch in if we hit, if we run out of options. But right now we're all right.
So for promotional purposes, getting the word out, have you shared the roadmap with like the KSQM radio station in Sequim and the KNOP radio station in Port Angeles? Like on KSQM FM, they have the Senior Daily Report 3 times a day, and they could be talking about that. And have you shared it with the O3A, the Olympic Area on Aging Agencies?
Yeah, we did. We shared widely with the AAAs. All of the people that were in different organizations that were part of our stakeholder group were given an assignment for dissemination. We have not done a radio station or media release of it. We have relied at this point on people who are doing the work, taking on their own kind of mission to disseminate further, which I would plant with all of you. Look for places that you can spread it, because we really want it in people's hands. I don't have a great deal of time to do a marketing plan for this at this point. So something like this is great, because I feel like then I can enlist more people who can tell more people. But if somebody, if one of you wanted to go on the radio and, just talk about it, that would be fine. Like, this is a group effort.
Yeah, it would be free to give the information to the KSQM FM radio station in Sequim. They would talk about it. And then, if I remember correctly, on the slide that you had that had 2 links, one was so we can order it and get it mailed to us, but was the other one so you could read it online?
No, they both have, one of them is the DOH website, and then the other is the Rural Palliative Care portal. So they kind of have different audiences, but both of those links take you to a place where you can get the electronic copy and you can get linked to ordering. How are we doing?
We still have about 10 more minutes, so ask questions, folks.
Can I just ask, so as you were presenting, you were talking about how you were looking at the audience that this would go out to. Did I understand what you were saying? This was more for care providers than it was for families themselves, or it's for both?
It's definitely for both. What was really different from dementia is we were also talking directly to patients, to the people living with the illness, where the dementia roadmap didn't really do that in a sense. But we have places where we're asking, what can the family do to be helpful, and what can you do to be helpful to your family, kind of in a reciprocal way. But we're including people who also have other kinds of care providers in those questions and the language that we use. So
I ask this because I come to everything with a disability lens, right? And from a disability lens, this is not an approachable document because there's not high graphics for explaining the words piece. So is there any thought to maybe flip, sorry, my son's in the background. So, but is there any thought to maybe doing a secondary publication that would be more aligned to people who respond better to graphics and less to words?
There's not at this point time and energy to do a second, but I'm hearing you. I was thinking in the electronic copy, I know we met ADA requirements in terms of, being able to mouse over terms and, that level of stuff, but I hear what you're saying. You're really talking about a design feature that's much less text heavy. So I appreciate that comment and we'll digest it, but.
Well,
Okay, no, thank you. I was just curious that I recognize the difficulty in doing that and the cost, absolutely.
Yeah, but it's worthy thought.
in the case of Priya's question, though, for somebody with a disability, that graphics are more necessary because of their grasp of the English language or whatever language they read, would therefore the end user not be the person with the disability, not be the person, you know, with the illness, but it would be more for their caregiver?
Possibly, yeah. Yeah, that's a way to think about it.
So that group can still have access to this, but it's not the patient themselves.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's only in English?
At this point, but we do have, if we had more funding, we would need to, you know, pay for the translation services. We do that a fair amount at DOH. So that's a conversation for us to move into sort of phase 2 after we get this disseminated further, but yeah.
How long has the Dementia Care Roadmap been in circulation?
I want to say 3 or 4 years. Anybody know with certainty? Is that 3 fingers you were holding up there, Mary?
I was thinking it was at least 3 years.
Yeah. We did have, oh, now I'm doing that name thing. I'm getting to the age where the name thing, and I used to be great at names. The person at DSHS that was part of the Dementia Action Lynn Corte. There, feel better. She was part of our stakeholder group, so we had a sort of the direct link to the dementia care work to inform us. It was really helpful to hear about their process.
I think that's Marty Richards.
That was Lynn Corte, but she probably works with Marty.
Because Marty, I want to say, is with DAC. And I remember I was going to do an interview with her, and then COVID hit and never took place.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have questions? Because if we don't have to stay on until 12:30.
Well, we have to sit and look at each other for just a bit longer.
Does anybody have any announcements with, well, does anybody have any more questions? Okay. So.
Thank you very much for being interested, and I'll put together an email for you when I get off with the slides so that you have everything you need.
Thank
Mary?
you, Pat. Very much
And
appreciated.
Charlotte?
Yeah.
Hey, so not a question about this, but in terms of announcements, hey, we are actually holding a guardianship workshop next week, and I recognize that some of the people that you serve might be interested in that. So can we share that flyer with one of
Please.
you?
Yeah.
And who is the right person to send it to?
You can send it to me and then I'll send it out to the group.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Have you sent that to Janet Paris?
I don't think so. I don't know if I
She
have
is
a
with,
contact.
yeah, she's with Information and Assistance, PSHS.
So I will reach out to you after this.
Yeah, I'll send it to Janet.
Okay, thank you.
I want to say that Janet's on our email list.
She is.
The NOPLTCA. And if
Yeah.
I'm doing a recap of this, it would be better if we consolidate everything into one email and not send them 2 or 3. So
all right, send it to Mary then.
Well, no, whatever anybody's sending, feel free to send it to both Charlotte and I, so we don't have to forward things to each other. And yeah, I think that would help eliminate multiple emails, because we want to try to do it so that one is read.